Today on the show, we're diving into the world of economic indicators. These are the numbers that tell us how the economy is doing, things like GDP, unemployment rates, and consumer confidence. But what do these indicators really mean? How are they calculated? And how should we interpret them? We'll break it all down for you, with the royal halls of Threxia were made of black stone and glowing blue light. High on the throne sat King Barren, ruler of 10 star systems, feared by enemies and respected by allies. But today, his face was hard with disappointment. Before him stood his only daughter, Princess Luria, tall, elegant, with silver markings across her cheeks and violet eyes full of silent pain. She did not cry, she did not argue, she just stood there, waiting for the king's next cruel words. "You are useless to the bloodline," he said coldly. "The doctors have confirmed it, you are infertile." Gasps came from the nobles standing nearby. Some looked away, others whispered. To be infertile in Threxian culture was a curse, especially for royalty. A princess who could not bear heirs had no value to the throne. She was no longer a daughter, she was a burden. Queen Soraya, Luria's stepmother, watched silently, her eyes cold like ice. She had always wanted her own son to rise. Now, with Luria removed, her path was clear. The king raised his hand. "You will be sent as a gift to the humans," he declared. "Let this useless title bring us something, at least peace." Luria bowed without a word, her voice locked inside her heart. She turned and walked away slowly, her long silver robe brushing the cold stone floor. She didn't look back. A week later, Luria stood inside a human space station orbiting Mars. The air smelled different, the lights too bright, the people too warm. Humans smiled too much, and some of them looked at her with curiosity. Not fear, but Luria felt like a shadow among them. Captain Ethan Ward was the one assigned to receive her. He expected an alien princess to be proud, arrogant, maybe even dangerous. But what he saw was a quiet, tired girl who barely spoke. "Welcome to Earth territory, princess," he said gently. Luria nodded once, saying only, "I am not a princess anymore." Ethan didn't push. He could see something was broken in her, something deep. But he didn't treat her like a problem or a tool. He gave her space and kindness. And he never asked questions she didn't want to answer. They placed her in a private room, warm and soft. She had books, a window to the stars and time. And for the first time in her life, no one shouted, no one gave orders. She could breathe. Over the next few days, Ethan would check in. Sometimes they shared tea, sometimes they just sat in silence. Then one night, during a quiet moment, she asked, "Why are you kind to me?" Ethan smiled. "Because no one should feel unwanted," he said. "Not even an ex-princess." Luria blinked, and something small cracked inside her, something she had locked away. She began to speak more after that, slowly, carefully. She told him stories of her planet, of the palace, of the cold looks and lonely nights. Ethan listened, really listened, and never once looked at her with pity. He showed her on the station gardens with fake gravity, human music, silly food machines. She tried chocolate for the first time and said it was too sweet and confusing. Ethan laughed and said, "That's life." Luria smiled that day. The first real smile she had given in years. But something strange was happening inside her. She felt warm all the time, dizzy in the mornings, and her heart beat faster when Ethan was near. At first, she thought it was just stress or maybe something broken inside her. But then, she collapsed during a walk through the garden module. Alarms rang, medics rushed in, and Ethan was the first to reach her. He held her hand as they carried her to the medical bay. Her skin was pale, her breath shallow, but her eyes never left Ethan's. "Don't leave me," she whispered, before losing consciousness. Hours later, a human doctor stared at her medical scans. He called Ethan in, face pale and shocked. "This can't be right," he said. "But the readings are clear, she's pregnant." Ethan blinked. "That's impossible," she said. "Her people said she can't." The doctor nodded slowly, and yet, here it is. A growing life inside her, and genetically, it's half human. The room fell silent. Ethan looked through the glass wall at the woman lying still. On the bed, the princess no one wanted, now carrying a child that should not exist. Something impossible had begun, and nothing in the galaxy would stay the same after this. Asterisk. The medbay was quiet. The only sound was the soft beeping of machines. Luria opened her eyes slowly. The lights above were soft and warm. Not harsh like in the palace. Ethan sat beside her bed, asleep in the chair, his head resting near her hand. She blinked, confused, her mind still cloudy. Then she remembered the garden, the dizziness, and the words she whispered before everything went dark. Don't leave me. She turned her head slightly and looked at him. This human man who was nothing like the nobles back home. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't fake. He was kind. A doctor entered quietly and saw her awake. He gave a small smile and touched a glowing pad, alerting others. Moments later, Ethan woke up, rubbing his eyes and leaned closer. You scared me, he said softly. Luria tried to sit up, but Ethan gently helped her. What happened to me? She asked, her voice soft, unsure. Ethan hesitated, then gave her a long look. You're pregnant. She froze, eyes wide. No, she whispered. That's not possible. The doctor stepped forward and spoke gently. We ran the scans twice, then 3 more times just to be sure. He showed her a hologram, tiny, glowing, shaped like a spark of light. A healthy life form. Half human, half Threxian. Luria stared at the image, her hand trembling. I was told I couldn't. I was broken, she said, her voice cracking. Ethan placed his hand over hers, warm and steady. You're not broken, Luria. Maybe they were wrong. Or maybe something changed, but deep inside she knew. Something had changed. When she met him, when she stopped feeling like nothing, maybe her body had responded to that. To him. To Hope, the news was kept quiet for now. Only the doctors and a few human officials knew. They debated what it meant, if the child was safe, if it could survive. But the scans showed it was stable, healthy, and growing faster. The normal human pregnancies, but still under control. Ethan stayed close to Luria, helping her adjust to the changes. He never judged her, never pressured her. Instead, he made her laugh, told her human jokes that made no sense, and brought her strange earth foods she had never tried. She grew stronger each day, her skin brighter, her eyes less cold. She would touch her stomach sometimes in wonder. This was never supposed to happen, she would say, and Ethan would smile and say, maybe the galaxy needed a surprise. They took walks again, this time slower. Ethan showed her baby animals in the biolabs, small furry creatures called kittens. Luria held one in her arms and said, so soft and loud. When it meowed, Ethan laughed and said, sounds like our future. But not everyone would laugh. In secret corners of the galaxy, sensors picked up unusual biological signals. Back on Threxia, hidden watchers saw the reports and whispered to the king. King Varian sat alone in the war chamber, staring at the data. The words glowed on the screen. Princess Luria, confirmed pregnancy. Hybrid fetus, human Threxian DNA match. His hands clenched into fists. Impossible, he growled. She was barren. Queen Soraya entered silently, her eyes narrow. This news will spread, my king, and people will question everything. She said, they will ask why we exiled a fertile heir, why her child is something no scientist ever thought was possible. Varian stood furious. That child must not be born. It will destroy our legacy. He summoned his top agents, the Black Blades. Go to Earth, bring back the girl and the child, or erase them both. Back on the human station, Luria began to feel the changes in her body more deeply. She could hear sounds sharper, sense danger in strange ways. Her baby was different. She could feel it not just alive, but aware. She told Ethan once, when I sleep, I feel like the child is dreaming. 2. Ethan didn't know what to say. This was more than science. More than biology, it was something new. Something that might change the rules of the universe. One night, as stars moved past the window, Luria stood holding her belly. She whispered to the unborn child, "They gave me away like a broken thing. But you made me whole." Outside her room, Ethan spoke quietly to a human commander. "Keep her safe," he said. "No matter what, protect her and the child." The commander nodded. But there was worry in his eyes. A Threxian ship had been spotted. Near the edge of human space, something was coming, and it wasn't peace help of some experts. To make sense of the numbers that shape our world. The royal chamber of Threxia trembled with silence. King Barren stood alone, his fists pressed against the edge of the cold stone table. Before him, a glowing screen showed a single image: his daughter, Luria, alive and pregnant. She was infertile. He growled under his breath. She was discarded. The royal doctors who once declared her barren were now summoned again. They knelt, sweating, before the furious king. One of them dared to speak. "Sire, we ran all tests. She showed no signs of fertility. And yet she carries a child now," the king said slowly, his voice colder than ice. "A human child." A low murmur passed through the hall. Some nobles looked disgusted, others shocked, but one elder noble, a female warrior named Kaisara, narrowed her eyes and said, "The child breaks all rules. That makes it dangerous. Or powerful." King Barren turned away, his cape sweeping behind him. "Send the Black Blades. I want the girl and her abomination brought back. And if she resists," he added darkly, "erase her." On the human station, Luria sat quietly, her hand resting on her growing belly. She could feel something inside her, not just life, but strength. It was strange but comforting. The child pulsed with energy unlike anything she had ever known. Ethan entered with a soft smile, carrying food. He had started learning Threxian recipes to help her feel more at home. She laughed when he tried cooking, burning half of it every time. Still, she appreciated the effort. They sat together, watching the stars through the long window. Luria looked up at him and asked, "Do you think I'm cursed?" Ethan looked surprised, then shook his head. "No, I think you were lied to. And now you're rewriting your whole story." She gave a small smile, but worry still hid in her eyes. "Something's coming. I can feel it," she whispered. "My father won't stay quiet." She was right. 2 days later, human sensors picked up a cloaked ship entering their system. It bore no signal, no identification, just silence. But to trained eyes, it was clear. Threxian assassins, the Black Blades, had arrived. Ethan was called into a secret meeting with human security. A senior officer said, "They're here for her. They know about the child." Ethan clenched his jaw. "Then we move her to a safer place, no debates." But moving her wouldn't be easy. The Black Blades were masters of stealth and manipulation. They didn't just kill, they turned allies into enemies, made shadows into weapons. That night, Luria dreamed of her father's throne. She saw his face twisted in anger and heard his voice say, "You do not belong with them." She woke up gasping, only to find Ethan beside her, fully dressed and armed. "They're on the station," he said quietly. "We have to leave now," Luria nodded. Already ready, something inside her had prepared her for this moment. Human guards led them through secret halls and emergency lifts. Every light, every sound felt heavier now. Luria kept one hand on her belly, as if shielding the child from the danger outside. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the corridor. The station shook. Red lights flashed. Alarms screamed. The Black Blades had struck. A fight broke out in the engineering wing. Human soldiers held their ground, but the Threxians were trained killers. One by one, security systems failed, but Ethan's plan had one final escape. An emergency ship docked in a private hangar. As they reached the hangar doors, a Black Blade dropped from the ceiling. Blade in hand, Luria froze, recognizing him. "Zereth," she whispered. "You served my father. The assassin tilted his head, looking at her, then at her belly. "You carry something that breaks our rules," he said, voice flat. "I was told to end it." Luria stood firm, surprising even Ethan. "But you didn't," she said softly. "You hesitated." Zereth's blade lowered slightly. "I saw the scans, your child. It activated ancient blood markers in our DNA. No Threxian has done that for thousands of years." He took a step back. "It may be the one the old prophecies spoke of." Then, with one last look, he turned and disappeared into the shadows. Ethan grabbed Luria's hand and rushed her onto the ship. Moments later, they launched into deep space. Safe for now, the ship flew silently through the stars. Ethan checked the systems, then sat beside Luria, breathing heavily. She looked at him with wide eyes. "I never believed that could matter to anyone," she said softly. "Now they chase me across the stars." Ethan reached out and touched her cheek. "You matter to me and to our child," she leaned against him, tired but strong. Far behind them, Threxia burned with anger, but ahead unknown space. And a future no one could predict, a child that shouldn't exist, now carried the hopes of two worlds. Asterisk. The stars outside were calm, but inside the ship, tension filled the air. Luria sat quietly, her hands resting on her growing belly. Ethan stood nearby, scanning the navigation screen, his jaw tight. They had escaped for now. But how far could they really run from a galaxy ruled by power, fear, and bloodlines? Their emergency vessel floated through neutral space. No weapons, no cloaking, just a false civilian ID and a weak shield. The Threxians could find them again. At any moment, still, Luria felt something strange peace. In this quiet, with Ethan beside her, and her child safe inside, she felt more alive than she ever had in the palace. She whispered to the unborn child, "We are not just running, we are surviving." But survival was not guaranteed, especially when the enemy changed tactics. A human diplomatic vessel contacted them unexpectedly. It was from the Earth Coalition's Peace Council, a group that oversaw alien-human relations. The voice over the comm said, "You are requested at a neutral summit station, the Threxian delegation has asked to speak directly with Princess Luria." Ethan narrowed his eyes. "They want to talk? After sending assassins?" But the council insisted it was safe. "Peace is possible," they said. "This is a chance to end this without bloodshed." Luria listened carefully. And then, against all fear, she said, "I will go." Ethan was shocked. "Are you sure?" "It could be a trap," she nodded. "Yes, but if I keep running, I'll be hunted forever. If I face them now, I still have a choice." The summit station was located inside a hollow moon neutral territory, guarded by both human and alien forces. The halls were smooth, cold, and silent. Luria walked through them in a simple cloak, hiding her growing belly. She was escorted by Ethan and 2 human guards, but even surrounded, she felt watched, like a dozen eyes were hiding behind the walls. Inside the council room, the air was tense. Sitting across the round table were 3 Threxian envoys led by Lord Rennick, one of her father's trusted generals. His eyes narrowed when he saw her. "You've grown," he said quietly. She replied, "And you're still serving a blind king." Rennick didn't smile. "You carry a child that doesn't belong in our records. It threatens the foundation of our empire." Ethan stepped forward. "She's not a threat, she's a bridge." Rennick's tone turned dark. "Bridges are built to be crossed, then burned." He stood slowly and pressed a button on his wrist. Device. And at that moment, everything changed. The lights dimmed, alarms rang, and human systems went offline. Luria's guards pulled out weapons. But it was too late. Black blades were already inside the station. It had been a trap from the start, carefully hidden behind fake peace. Luria and Ethan were pulled away in opposite directions. She screamed his name, but heavy gas filled the chamber and everything went dark. When she woke up, she was no longer on the moon. She was inside a Threxian ship, cold, metallic, and far from Earth space. 2 masked guards stood near her, silent and still. Luria sat up slowly, her body aching. Her hands went to her stomach, her child still moved. She exhaled deeply, whispering, "You're still with me." A door opened, and an unexpected figure walked in. Zirith, the black blade who had once let her go. This time his blade was sheathed, but his face was unreadable. "Why am I still alive?" Luria asked, her voice cold. Zirith stared at her for a moment before speaking. "Because the king wants to see you one last time." Back on the summit station, Ethan was locked in a holding room. Human security blamed him for the breach thinking. He might have been tricked or even turned, but he didn't care what they thought. He just wanted Luria back. Using an old military contact, Ethan managed to escape. He hacked into the station's systems and traced the last ship that left the Threxian cruiser. Without backup, without orders, Ethan stole a scout ship and followed the trail. "Wherever they take her, I'm going too," he whispered on board. The Threxian cruiser, Luria, was brought to a grand chamber, and there he stood, her father, King Barren. Cloaked in dark armor, his eyes scanned her belly, his expression unreadable. "You've caused quite the storm, daughter," he said slowly. "No thanks to you," she replied, voice steady. He circled her like a predator. "That child. It does something to our ancient tech. Old systems respond to it. Weapons come alive when it's near." He paused, then added, "Some say it's a sign, others call it an abomination." Luria stood tall. "It's neither, it's mine," Barren looked at her one last time and said, "Then it belongs to the throne." And with that, he turned to the guards. "Prepare the extraction." Luria's eyes widened. "They're going to take the child." But she was not alone. Outside the ship, a stolen scout vessel approached fast. Ethan had arrived, and he wasn't knocking. The Threxian warship floated in silence near a dying star. Its hull shimmered black, and its engines were quiet. But deep inside, a storm was rising. Luria stood in the royal chamber, her eyes burning with fury. She faced her father, King Barren, the man who once called her broken. Now he looked at her with cold interest, not as a daughter but as a vessel. "You plan to extract the child," she said quietly. "You would tear him from me just to study him." The king didn't flinch. "This child is not yours alone. He is Threxian. He belongs to the Empire." Luria shook her head. "No, he is mine and Ethan's, and you gave me away, remember?" "You have no claim." King Barren stepped closer. "You are still royal by blood. And your child is the first of a new kind. He must be tested, controlled." Behind him, scientists waited, their machines ready. But none dared touch Luria, not yet. Suddenly, an alarm rang through the ship. The red lights flashed, unauthorized ship approaching. The command center buzzed with panic. King Barren turned to the nearest officer. "Who dares enter my space without permission?" Unidentified human scout craft, small but fast, no weapons detected. Barren narrowed his eyes. "Destroy it." But Luria smiled slightly. "He's here," she whispered. "He came for us." Ethan's hands gripped the controls of the stolen scout ship. He had pushed the engines to their limits, nearly burning them out. The Threxian cruiser loomed ahead, massive and armed. But he wasn't going to turn back. "I'm not leaving her in that monster's hands," he muttered. He activated a decoy signal and engaged the emergency breach protocol. A blast pod launched from his ship, aimed right at the enemy hull. Inside the pod, Ethan braced himself. Metal groaned, lights flashed red, then impact. His pod tore into the cruiser's outer deck, and emergency doors sealed behind him. He was inside the royal chamber. The king's guards rushed to intercept the intruder. But Zirith, the same Black Blade who once spared Luria, stepped forward and blocked them. "Stand down," Zirith said, his voice calm but firm. "This child is not a threat, he is a sign." The guards froze. They had all heard the rumors, how Luria's child had activated old systems, how the bloodline markers from the ancient warlords had glowed again. Zirith looked at Luria. "You are not just a mother now, you are a key." Luria was shocked. "You were ordered to kill me. Why are you helping now?" He lowered his mask, revealing tired eyes. I believed the old ways were sacred. But then I saw your child's scan. It matched the lost line. Luria remembered the stories. The lost line, a bloodline of warriors said to bring balance between empires. No one believed it was real, until now. Ethan fought his way through narrow halls, using stun grenades and clever tactics. He reached the inner chamber doors sealed tight. With a deep breath, he planted a charge. Boom metal flew, alarms wailed, and smoke filled the room. He stepped through the haze, gun raised. "Get away from her," he shouted, eyes locked. On the king, Luria's eyes lit up. "You made it." The king stared at Ethan, surprised by his courage. A single human dares stand before a king. Ethan replied, "I don't care what you are. If you threaten my family, I'll fight you with bare hands." King Varian sneered, "You're a weak species. But perhaps your madness is why this child exists." Zirith stepped between them. "We are not here to fight," he said. "Not anymore." The king growled. "You would betray me?" Zirith stood tall. "I follow the truth now, not fear." The chamber door opened again, and one of the ship's AI systems entered on a hover unit. It displayed an image of ancient Threxian glyphs glowing in response to Luria's baby. "This child has activated royal systems that haven't responded in 1,000 years. It reported, genetic match confirmed, lost line." Silence fell over the room. The guards looked at each other, unsure what to do. The king sat down slowly, his face pale. "If this child is real, then he is heir to more than I ever had." Luria stepped forward. "He is the future, but he will not be your weapon." Ethan took her hand. "We're not your enemies, but we'll never let you take him." The king looked at them, two souls from different worlds, united by something greater, and for the first time, he saw the future slipping from his grasp. But he still had power, and power never surrenders easily. Later that night, Luria, Ethan, and Zirith stood in the quiet docking bay. Zirith had helped them secure a safe ship. "You'll be hunted," he warned. Luria nodded. "We already are." Zirith looked at the child in the scan small, glowing with ancient symbols. "Protect him. The galaxy is not ready." Ethan smiled. "Then we'll prepare it." And with one last look, they left the cruiser behind, not as fugitives, but as the parents of a legend. Asterisk. The stars outside burned quietly, but peace was an illusion. Inside a hidden human outpost near the edge of unclaimed space, tension filled every corridor. Ethan paced back and forth while Luria lay in the medbay, her face pale and sweating. She clutched the sides of the bed, breathing hard. "It's too early," she whispered. "He's not ready." But the human doctors looked at the scans and shook their heads. "No, princess. Your child is not just ready. He's demanding to be born." Alarms flickered silently in the command room above them. A sensor had detected a fleet entering. The outer system Threxian and fast. Their cloaks were weak, but their weapons were strong. The outpost commander looked at the screen, then at Ethan. "They found you," he said quietly. "They're coming for the child." Ethan rushed back into the medbay, where Luria's hands trembled. He knelt beside her, brushing the hair from her face. "You're not alone," he said softly. "I'm here, and I'm not leaving." She nodded weakly, her eyes shining with pain and determination. "He is strong, he is ready, but I don't want him born into war." Outside, the station went into lockdown. Shields were raised, weapons powered up, and defense teams were sent to every floor. But the commander knew this place wasn't built for war. It was built to hide, and now it was too late for that. Zirith, the Black Blade who had switched sides, stood on the observation deck. He wore no armor now, just a simple cloak and a sword on his back. When Ethan approached, Zirith didn't turn. "They won't wait," he said. "They'll strike during the birth. It's their last chance to take him." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then we hold the line." Zirith looked at him for a moment, then nodded. "You were once just a man, but now you stand like a king." In the medbay, the machines beeped faster. Luria screamed once, and then her breathing steadied. The doctor called out, "Crowning, we need full focus." Her body shook, but she refused to quit. Her child was coming into the world, not by accident, but by her choice. She had been called infertile, discarded by her own blood. Now, she was giving life to something that broke every rule, a new kind of future. The Threxian fleet entered the system with no warning. A volley of plasma fire hit the station's outer shields, shaking the walls. Explosions burst across the edges. Lights flickered, and gravity dipped for a moment. But the humans fought back. Old weapons from Earth's deep space war era lit up the void. Fighter drones launched and interceptors danced between the stars. Inside the base, Ethan led a small defense unit. He stood beside Xerath, holding a pulse rifle. "This is my first time defending a berth," he muttered. Xerath smirked. "Threxian assassins train with fire. Today, so do humans." The door exploded moments later, and the fight began. While plasma bolts lit the halls, a single cry echoed through the medbay. The baby was born. Covered in soft energy that shimmered faintly gold, everyone in the room felt it like the child was humming with ancient power. The doctor stepped back, wide-eyed. This isn't normal." Luria reached for the child, tears in her eyes. She held him close, whispering, "You changed everything. And you haven't even opened your eyes." The moment the baby touched her skin, something happened. Every nearby screen lit up. Symbols flashed, Threxian and human code blending as one. The power grid surged, and the shields outside grew stronger. Brighter, in the command room, systems rebooted and locked onto enemy targets faster than before. It was as if the station itself had been upgraded, just by the child's presence. Ethan returned to the medbay, bruised and sweating. When he saw her holding their son, he froze. For the first time, he had no words, only awe. Luria looked up at him, smiling through tears. "Meet our son," she whispered. "The one who wasn't supposed to exist." He moved closer, gently touching the baby's tiny hand. The boy gripped his finger with surprising strength. "I think he's already stronger than me," Ethan joked quietly. But there was no time to rest. Xerath rushed in moments later. Blood on his arm. "They've breached the outer levels. We must evacuate now," the commander patched through. "A stealth shuttle is ready. It can break through the battle." Ethan lifted Luria into a carrier chair, strapping her in carefully with the child wrapped in soft thermal layers. Xerath took point, blade drawn. The family moved through burning halls and falling panels. They weren't just running. They were delivering a symbol into the galaxy. As the shuttle launched, the station behind them took one final hit, then exploded into light, buying time for their escape. Inside the shuttle, Luria cradled the child as Ethan looked back at the burning star field. "I was never meant to be part of something this big," he said quietly. Luria leaned her head on his shoulder. "Neither was I, but our child is." The baby stirred, his eyes glowing faintly as he looked up for the first time, and the galaxy changed again. The shuttle floated in the deep black of space. Behind it, the ruins of the outpost still glowed like a fading star. But inside the small ship, something new had begun. Luria cradled her son close, his skin warm against hers. Ethan sat beside her, one hand gently resting on her shoulder. Neither of them spoke for a while. Just listened to the soft breath of their newborn child. He didn't cry like other babies. He looked around quietly, eyes bright, as if already aware of the stars, as if he recognized them. Xerath sat across from them, his sword across his knees. He watched the child with both respect and fear. "You may not understand yet," he said quietly, "but this child, he is more than a symbol. He is a force." Ethan glanced at him. "What does that mean?" Xerath leaned forward. "Long ago, the Threxians followed warriors called the Starborn. They were said to bring balance between empires, to stop wars. Before they started, your son matches their genetic code, something we believed was lost forever." Luria looked down at her child. "So, he is not just ours," she whispered. "He belongs to the stars." The shuttle reached a hidden base, a joint facility used by humans and neutral alien scientists. They docked quietly, under heavy security. But word had already spread across space. Everyone wanted to see the child. Some feared him, others worshipped him, and a few wanted him gone. A galactic council, made of leaders from dozens of systems, called for a meeting. They demanded the child be presented. Some claimed he was a threat, others hoped he was a miracle. Luria stood in the council chamber, with Ethan beside her. Their child slept in her arms, unaware that entire civilizations were watching. The room buzzed with noise until a loud chime silenced them. A human ambassador stood first. This child is the first living bridge between species, born of love, not control. A Threxian warlord growled in response. Or he is a weapon, born of Forbidden's blood. Zereth stepped forward. No, he said calmly. He is proof that peace is possible, and the reason many of us still draw breath. He then told the full story, how the child's presence had awakened ancient technology, how shields had grown stronger, how systems had aligned without command, and how the child had saved them all during the battle. The council went quiet. Luria stepped forward, her voice soft but clear. I was called infertile, thrown away by my people. But this child was born not out of power or plans, but kindness. He is not a mistake, he is a second chance. For all of us, Ethan added. If the galaxy is afraid of him, maybe it's because we're not ready for the future he brings. A long silence followed. Then a voice from the far end spoke, an elder alien from the Scholars Guild. Give the child a choice. Let him grow without chains, then see who he becomes. The council agreed. But not without conditions. The child must be protected, monitored, and never used as a tool for war. Luria and Ethan accepted, but they knew one truth. Nothing would ever be the same again. Years passed slowly, but the child named Kale grew quickly. By the age of 3, he could read both human and Threxian languages by 5. He was solving puzzles that adult scientists could not. He was gentle, curious, and loved to sit by the stars, asking questions no one could answer. Why do stars burn so long? Do they get tired too? Do they hear us? Ethan trained him in Earth customs, how to care, how to protect. Luria taught him Threxian honor, how to speak with truth and walk without fear. Kale didn't see humans or aliens, he only saw people. But not all forgot the past and the shadows. Factions still watched. Old powers feared what Kale would become, not because of what he had done, but because of what he might do. One night, as Kale looked out at the stars, he asked Luria, Mother, will people always be afraid of me? She pulled him close. Some will, yes, but the right ones will follow you. Ethan joined them, wrapping his arms around both. And no matter where the path leads, we'll walk it with you. Kale nodded slowly, then looking up at the stars, he whispered, maybe I'll build a place where no one's afraid anymore. And so began a new chapter, not just for a boy or a family, but for the galaxy itself. A child once called impossible, now known as the heir of 2 worlds. Born in war, raised in love, and destined to change everything.